Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be comparing the many adaptations of Salem's Lot. Now, I have a review for the actual source material itself, that being the Stephen King novel of the same name, so you can check that out if you want to first. And in this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on all of the prior adaptations of the book. That being the 1979 miniseries, its sequel film, A Return to Salem's Lot, and the 2004 miniseries. As for the recent movie adaptation, I'll be discussing that in a separate video. In case you haven't seen any of these adaptations or read the book, not to worry, I'm going to keep this video spoiler free. So, let's get into it. So the 1979 miniseries was produced by Warner Bros. Television and aired on the CBS network. It comprised of two 90-minute episodes, it was made on a budget of $4 million, and it was directed by none other than the late great Tobe Hooper, who is best known for directing the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And I have to say that so far, this is still my favorite adaptation of the book. You know, I really enjoyed the performances, especially Reggie Nalder, who played Barlow. You know, I think this particular version of the character will always be the scariest. Tobe Hooper places a great deal of emphasis on atmosphere and makes an effective use of the relatively low budget he had to work with, which is why I think the series holds up so well today. And even the music by Harry Sukman was cool. You know, it manages to be both scary and campy in equal measure, and even has some jazz sections every once in a while. However, I don't think this miniseries was necessarily perfect. You know, because this was made for TV and not a theatrically released production, the horror elements are somewhat restrained. And because of that, there are bits and bobs in this miniseries that don't exactly hold up now. And because this is an adaptation, there were certain things that obviously had to be cut out. And in this particular case, it came at the expense of Father Callahan, one of the best characters in the entire novel. As a result, he's barely in the miniseries, with much of his characterization being cut out, and his only noteworthy scene here is his confrontation with Barlow. But putting those things aside, I genuinely enjoyed this adaptation, and I think even if you haven't read the book, you should definitely check it out. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So, A Return to Salem's Lot is a 1987 feature film that serves as a sequel to the 1979 miniseries. It was produced by Warner Bros. And written and directed by Larry Cohen, and it follows an anthropologist by the name of Joe Weber, who, along with his son, encounter a series of supernatural incidents as well as vampirism in the town of Jerusalem's Lot. Now, I had no idea what to expect going into this because it had nothing to do with the source material, but I went in with an open mind, and I have to say, this is one of the most baffling sequels I have ever seen, because I didn't like it at all. In fact, it was so bad I had to stop watching after 40 minutes. Not only did this movie have nothing to do with Salem's Lot, but it had nothing to do with the 1979 miniseries. And even then, the story it told was not that interesting to me. I didn't care for the characters, I thought the acting was terrible, the dialogue was atrocious, the production values were abysmal, it didn't scare me in the slightest, and the music was so over the top. And it had Daniel Pearl as the cinematographer, the same man behind the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre cinematography, not to mention the 2003 remake as well. And yet this is definitely some of the worst cinematography in his career. Although I guess there are some good things about this movie. You know, it does have a so bad it's good appeal to it, in the same vein as, say, Troll 2. And the one noteworthy character in the film is Van Meer, an eccentric Nazi hunter who has been surveilling the town and joins forces with Joe. And the weird thing is that even though most of his dialogue is complete and utter gobbledygook, you can't help but feel a sense of raging passion within him. And fun fact, he was played by Samuel Fuller, a low-budget filmmaker and real-life World War II veteran. But yeah, overall, I can't say I'd recommend this one to you. However, if you want to see it just for how bad it is, or just to see Van Meer do his thing, then go right ahead. You know, you might actually get some enjoyment out of it. Sadly though, this is still gonna get a 2 out of 10 from me. And last but not least, we have the 2004 miniseries. This adaptation was produced once again by Warner Bros. Television and aired on the TNT network. It was directed by Michael Salem and comprises of two 90-minute episodes, with an overall budget of $15 million. Many people consider this to be inferior to the 1979 miniseries, and while I certainly agree with this sentiment, I still found myself enjoying it quite a bit. And as far as Stephen King adaptations go, I consider it to be massively underrated. First of all, it had a terrific cast behind it. You had Rob Lowe in the lead role as Ben Mears, James Cromwell as Father Callahan, and three legendary actors who are sadly no longer with us, that being Andre Braugher in the role of Matt Bark, Donald Sutherland as Richard Straker, and of course Rutger Hauer in the role of Kurt Barlow. May they all rest in peace. Whereas the 1979 miniseries was incredibly atmospheric, this version aimed to be a bit more slick and a bit more stylish, especially with the larger budget. And it also places an emphasis on voiceovers from Ben Mears, and his experience with the Marston house as a child is actually shown in a flashback. Plus, characters like Father Callahan and Ava are given more screen time and characterization. But the biggest shockers for me were the opening scene and the final scene. Things I didn't really expect since they deviate significantly from the 1979 miniseries as well as the source material. Whether or not they were effective is something that can be debated, but as for me, I actually enjoyed these creative liberties. And the musical score by Christopher Gordon was fantastic. It's much darker and a bit more experimental, with a strong emphasis on choirs in particular, and I actually consider it to be better than the 1979 miniseries score. However, this particular miniseries wasn't as scary as the 1979 version, and this is due in large part to the overall style, direction, and the fact that the vampires are a bit more grounded and more human looking. Plus, its attempt at recreating iconic scenes such as the window scene aren't quite as effective here. And the other issue I have is Father Callahan. While I appreciate him having a more prominent role here, they take a certain direction with this particular character that did not work for me at all, especially since it went against the source material's treatment of him. But putting all of that aside, I genuinely enjoyed this, and I would encourage more people to see it if they haven't, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, those are my thoughts on all of the adaptations of Salem's Lot. Next time we're going to be looking at the movie, so look forward to that very soon. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please be sure to like the video, share it and subscribe, ring the bell, take care, and I'll see you soon.